What's up, guys? So this is the first video that I'm posting to Instagram TV instead of my YouTube channel. Figure more of you can kind of see this. So this is episode 16 of Out of the Shadows, my YouTube series, and it is called Always Be Yourself. So it sounds extremely cliche, but when you're yourself, there's a great sense of peace and freedom that comes with this. Now, I say that even though that sounds maybe a little bit hippie-ish. I say peace because when you're not being yourself, when you're trying to please other people, there's a lot of chaos going on. There's a lot of things in your mind like, all right, well, what does this person like? What is that person like? How can I get that person to like me? How can I be funnier? How can, there's all this mind chatter going on, and if you're just being yourself and authentic, it flows. It's much more natural. And I say freedom because you're not, kind of constrained by everyone else's opinion. And really, the first thing to realize is that you're measuring yourself by not what other people think, but by what you think that they think. It sounds like a little bit of double talk, but you don't know what everyone else is thinking. You're trying to imagine what they think, and you're trying to measure yourself by that standard. Excuse my shaky camera hand and also my moving of my notes down here. But you're trying to imagine what other people are thinking, and you don't know what everyone is thinking. First of all, no two people think alike. Everyone has different beliefs, different values, different reference points. So trying to measure your self-worth by what others might think of you is a very difficult thing. You don't know what they're thinking. Realistically, you're operating from an idea. You're measuring yourself by this idealized person that you quote-unquote should be. And that's impossible. That's getting into the realm of perfectionism, and no one's perfect. If you try to be perfect, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to be very upset. I did a whole video on this just recently, the 2 videos back. I can't remember the name right now, but check it out. So, a lot of people will tend to ask, well, all right, that sounds really simple, but well, how do I just be myself? Everyone says that, if you're going to go on a date or something, everyone's like, well, what should I do? Oh, just be yourself. And I think kind of one of the most direct routes to finding out who we are, to being ourselves, is to think about what we value. What are your highest values? What standards do you live by, or do you want to live by, should we say? In terms of my highest values, I would say it's empathy, compassion, and connections in terms of friends and family. Now, empathy being my highest value, I can get really in depth with this. I can actually kind of trace, at least in my opinion, where this came from. When I was younger, very young, I was 3 years old actually, my parents split up. There was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of arguing, there was a lot of yelling. And at 3 years old, this scared me. I was frightened. And I remember thinking to myself, no one is ever going to be afraid of me. I will never make someone afraid the way that I'm afraid right now. And indirectly, I kind of decided that I wanted to help people. I wanted to make them feel comfortable. So, how can you do that? If you know how someone is feeling, empathizing with them, that's kind of the road to making others comfortable, to making them feel safe, as opposed to feeling afraid. So that's kind of what led me to where I am. And, I think the big thing to remember is to embrace who you are. With me, like I said, it's empathy. Whatever your values are, you need to embrace them, because if you don't, if you try and, again, measure yourself by that idea and tell yourself, well, I should be this, you're discouraging yourself. You're telling yourself that you're not good enough. Telling yourself that you're not good enough, that leads to self-hate, self-loathing, and that's a surefire way to get depressed and or anxious. Self-love, it sounds, again, like this very esoteric, hippie-ish kind of concept, but if you don't love yourself, every aspect of your life is affected, and you're going to have a lot of turmoil, to say the least. So that's also, hugely important. And an example I can give from my own life, as I said, with gravitating toward empathy and wanting to help others. I was definitely a very sensitive kid. I still consider myself sensitive. I'm very emotional, very in touch with my emotions. And in my family, it was more toughness was valued. People weren't being extremely emotional, and you know, it's not that I wasn't shown affection. I absolutely was. I'm not saying anything like that, but there was definitely more of a tough kind of assertive, aggressive type approach, and that wasn't me. I was emotional. I was non-aggressive. I was, sympathetic towards others, and I remember hearing a lot growing up that like, oh well, he's just sensitive, or you're too sensitive, or he's too sensitive. So it gave me this impression that, all right, being sensitive isn't good. It's not okay to be sensitive. And this, I think, really led to me having lower self confidence. Well, it definitely led to me having lower self confidence because I was thinking, all right, well, it's not okay to be sensitive. So I need to find a way to not be sensitive. And once I'm not sensitive, then I'm okay. But being that I'm sensitive, I'm saying that I'm not okay. That thought alone is going to lead you to a very bad place. And as I said, you need to get to a place where you embrace who you are, you love who you are. It's only now, after 32 years, that I am embracing who I am. I will say these things came about within the last year, so still that's the vast majority of my life. But I've accepted myself and come to feel that my sensitivity, or being so emotional, is more of an asset than a hindrance. It's an asset in terms of I know often what people are feeling, sometimes even why they're feeling it, if I know them well enough to have a reference of that. It's helped me to be good with animals and children. Again, that connecting with people and trying to make them feel safe, it's very important to me. So, as I say, figure out what your values are and embrace them, aspire toward that stuff. Look to people who you admire. Who do you look up to? What do you like about them? Is it because they're very generous, they're brave? What are the things that you look at that you say, what, I want to be like that? Likely those are your values. And our values, our beliefs dictate who we are, how we behave, and it's largely important to mental health. I did 2 videos on our beliefs, how they're formed, how you can change them to be more empowering. Again, please check those out. As my Instagram name says, it's Out of the Shadows. If you search Out of the Shadows Corvo, all my content will come up. But the point being that I've been getting at in this whole video is we create ourselves. It's not an accident. It's not other people doing it. Yes, obviously experiences in life affect you and you react a certain way. But when you become an adult, you decide who you're going to become. There's an old Native American legend about 2 wolves. Some of you may be familiar with this. A grandson asks I'm sorry, I already messed it up. A grandfather tells his grandson, there's 2 wolves inside every man. One is good and one is evil. The evil wolf represents jealousy, hatred, superiority, all these negative emotions. The good wolf represents humility, peace, love, things like that. And the grandson says, well, who wins? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. So what does this tell us? We all have these emotions inside us. We all have the potential to do great things or do really bad things. And it's all about what you embrace and the things that you feed and cultivate that is going to make you the person you'd want to be. So, all right, guys, that's it for this video. Please check out my content on YouTube, Out of the Shadows Corvo, Corvo. And until next week, be legendary, my friends. It's kind of like Tom Billy. I totally stole that from him. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.